It's absolutely crazy to me that there's credit card benefits out there that could save you thousands of dollars that people may not even know about or choose not to use. And some of these credit card benefits I'm going to be talking about aren't necessarily just for high-end credit cards. There's a good chance that a credit card you have may actually have some of these benefits. And I've personally used a number of these credit card benefits, saving me hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. So not only will you learn from my own experience, but on top of that, you'll understand the nuances and details to basically guarantee your odds that these benefits will actually be used successfully. Before we jump into it, I do just want to briefly mention I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers, so if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, the first major benefit I want to talk about is purchase protection. And so not necessarily every credit card out there offers this benefit, but Chase has a variety of cards, as well as American Express has a lot of cards that offer this protection. So when we're talking about purchase protection, we're not necessarily talking about someone using my credit card without my knowledge. That's kind of known as unauthorized use protection, which pretty much is standard across all credit card platforms. But what we're actually talking about here is, let's say I go out there and buy a laptop or an iPad or even something like expensive shoes or expensive jeans. Those are things that can actually get reimbursed. Let's say, for example, they actually gonna get damaged. Let's say, I have a dog that ended up chewing through my shoes, or my laptop, I have a leak in the ceiling and it ends up spilling on my laptop. Now, those are things I can submit a claim either to American Express, Chase, or whatever credit card I'm using, and obviously submit proof. And in a lot of cases, they will either reimburse you for the cost of repairing, let's say, that laptop, or like the things like shoes, for example, where you can't really repair those shoes, they will actually fully reimburse you for the full cost of those shoes. Now, each credit card company and even different credit cards within the same credit card company offer different levels of protection. For example, Chase Sapphire Reserve offers up to $10,000 per claim and a maximum amount of $50,000 per year. And these purchases, the protection only lasts 120 days after you bought the item. However, Chase Freedom only offers up to $500 per claim. So if you bought a laptop with, let's say, the Chase Sapphire Reserve, that would be completely covered, assuming it's less than $10,000. But if you're buying more than that, well, good for you. But on the Freedom, it wouldn't be covered. It would only be covered for that $500 limit. So it's really important to think about which credit card to use if you have multiple credit cards. And I really encourage everybody to understand the specific details of what actually is covered versus what's not. And it varies between different credit cards. Things like electronics or expensive clothing, those are things that are typically covered, but things can kind of fall in this gray area. Electric toothbrushes, electric razors, those aren't necessarily electronics. Those would fall more likely in the personal hygiene category. And that category isn't, it doesn't fall under this policy, so you wouldn't be covered by that claim. On top of that, things like used goods, even if you spend a couple $100s buying an expensive TV, if it kind of is from a used store, then it's going to fall under that used category and it's not necessarily going to be covered. So you really want to make sure you understand the details, because that can be the difference of getting a MacBook Pro fully reimbursed or having to use an old laptop. And I'll just say right now that old laptop is actually mine and I refuse to let it quit. Now, another major benefit that I absolutely love is what's known as return protection. This is actually slightly different than purchase protection. Purchase protection, we're talking about damage or stolen. With return protection, we're talking about if I buy something, let's say from Target, and typically Target has a 90-day return policy. Well, let's say I go on the 40th day to go return something. Electronics have a 15-day return policy, or sometimes tools only have a 30-day return window. And so on that 40th day, maybe they refuse the item because it falls under one of those special return windows, or maybe the box just looks a little bit funky to them and they don't want to accept a return. In those cases, I can actually contact American Express or whatever credit card offers this benefit and actually submit to them that I showed up to the store on this day and they end up refusing this claim for this reason. And then in those cases, American Express will actually refund you the money, and in a lot of cases it will actually ask you to send the item to them. That way you're not necessarily kind of double dipping. They're not necessarily refunding you the money and you're keeping the item. But actually in a few cases, and in a couple of my instances as well, they actually allow you to keep the item. So I usually find that if you're buying something like $50 in that kind of range, that it's not necessarily worth their time and money to pay for the shipping for you to return that item. So they'll let you keep it and then they'll refund the money. So it's actually a really great benefit. If nothing else, it at least allows you to have that extra peace of mind, especially because sometimes, especially like right now, nowadays, a lot of companies are changing the return windows and the return policies, and it's kind of hard to keep up with that. So having that extra return protection benefit can actually be a huge help. Now, another credit card benefit that may not necessarily be too obvious to a lot of people is the fact that you have kind of a grace period in terms of actually spending something. So let's say, for example, I buy something January 1st and it's, the statement won't close for that credit card on January 31st and it won't be due until February 15th. So I can buy something January 1st and not necessarily have to come up with the money until February 15th. Now, obviously, this is a big disclaimer, that encourages a lot of bad financial habits. That's why credit card companies offer this, is because they're hoping that people end up overspending. But if a lot of people, they have good financial habits, but they just are in a situation where they're living paycheck to paycheck. They're not necessarily making enough money to kind of get themselves out of the hole. So having that 45-day grace period can actually be pretty beneficial. It can actually end up being 15 days because if I end up buying something January 31st and that's when my statement closes, then I'm going to owe that depending on my due date. It can be 10 days, 15 days. So you're really going to want to make sure, again, that you understand the details. Another huge reason to use credit cards is that it gives you power or leverage over companies, especially in this day and age where online shopping is a thing. It's a pretty typical scenario that you end up thinking you're getting a high quality item, you did your research, but then the end product that you end up receiving ends up being poor quality and a lot less than what you expected. And then it can pretty much quickly turn into this he said, she said type situation. You end up wanting a full refund. The shipper or the person that sold you the product ends up saying something along the lines of, well, we did send you a product. Sure, it's less than what you expected, but we're not going to refund you. Or if we do refund you, you have to pay for shipping, or we're going to deduct 20% off of the refund amount. This is where being able to dispute a charge, or what's also sometimes known as a chargeback, becomes very useful. The credit card company ends up kind of working as a mediator between you and the person you ended up buying this product from, and 99% of the times they're going to end up favoring with the customer versus the company. And credit card companies will often charge the seller company a fee, a chargeback fee, and there's a lot more nuances to it, but at the end of the day, companies don't want to have to refund your money and also be charged a fee as well. So even just threatening the idea of a chargeback can get companies to be more compliant with you. Especially, I'm not suggesting anybody abuse this type of benefit, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of situations where the buyer, wants to refund something at no fault to their own, and it's purely on the seller, but the seller's not willing to take full responsibility. Well, then a chargeback may certainly be an option, something you care about. And American Express is actually known as a company that's very customer friendly. So if you're looking at it for a credit card, and this is something you care about, then American Express may certainly be an option for you. Another major benefit that I want to talk about that actually is two separate different types of benefits I'm going to lump into one category, is what's known as travel insurance as well as auto rental insurance. And this is actually a category that I highly, highly encourage everybody to read up on the rules, read up on the details, because every different credit card can have these very specific exceptions to the rule. So you may end up thinking, okay, well, my flight got canceled, so that should be a reason for travel insurance to kick in. But the reality is that they have this exception that, if the flight is only delayed by 3 hours, then that doesn't necessarily count. Or if it's delayed by 6 hours, but it's not necessarily an overnight stay, then you're only qualified for a certain amount of benefit. Or another good example, speaking of auto rental insurance, is that some credit cards offer primary rental insurance, whereas other credit cards only offer secondary rental insurance. And this is a major difference that can end up costing you thousands of dollars if you don't fully understand, because some people, they see built into their credit card is rental insurance. So when they go to rent a car, they don't necessarily opt in for that primary rental insurance that the rental company is offering. But then they end up having somebody wreck into their car, and then they realize that they're only covered in secondary insurance, which means that you could actually be on the hook for that rental damage. Not only is it important to understand the details of these benefits, because you can end up thinking you have a benefit that you actually don't qualify for, but the reverse can certainly be true too, where you actually are entitled to benefits, but simply because you're not aware of it, you're not taking advantage of it. So for example, speaking of travel insurance, that's a good scenario where people think they can get things like a hotel room covered, or possibly things like food, but you can get other things covered like shampoo, body wash, sometimes even things like clothing or entertainment like books. Especially if you have a flight that gets delayed for several days, that's a scenario where that travel insurance can kick in and pay out bigger benefits, even hundreds of dollars more than you may be thinking. So definitely read up on those benefits. That way you can make sure that you can avoid some headaches, but also make sure that you can fully be reimbursed for the things you're entitled for. Now, the last major benefit I want to talk about is what's known as extended warranties. And normally I would say never purchase a separate extended warranty for any type of item you're buying. And you're probably thinking, why is that? And the main reason is that these insurance companies have basically figured out what's the odds that you're actually going to need to use this warranty claim. So if there's something being offered as an extended warranty, then there's probably a good chance that they already know that that's something that doesn't typically break, or at the very least you're being charged so much that it's not necessarily going to be worth it. But going to this credit card benefit of extended warranties, a lot of these credit cards, for example, the American Express Gold Card, is something that offers a built-in benefit as far as extended warranties. So let's say I buy something out there and it ends up having a 1-year warranty. Let's say I end up buying a blender, and that blender ends up breaking after 1.5 years. So it's past its normal manufacturer warranty. Well, now I have that benefit built into American Express Gold Card, and I can contact American Express, submit a claim, and they will honor the warranty. And it's kind of the same situation situation like any other type of warranty, right? They will either end up paying for the repair or they'll end up replacing it for the original value. Now, I do want to point out that different credit cards offer different levels of extended warranty. For example, some credit cards offer just one additional extra year. Some credit cards actually will double whatever the original manufacturer warranty is. So let's say I end up buying a frying pan and that this non-stick coating is supposed to last 2 years, and so that's its manufacturing warranty on that. Well, because I bought it with this credit card and that it doubles that warranty, if something were to happen within 4 years, then I'm still covered. On top of that, something else you're going to care about is what's basically the customer service rate for that warranty built into that credit card. Because a lot of companies out there, especially when it comes to warranties, they basically have a strong incentive to make it as difficult as possible. They'll have you submit a lot of documentation, and on top of that, they'll be very difficult to even get it approved. They'll basically find some kind of loophole or some kind of different little thing that you didn't read about, and they'll end up denying that warranty claim. So definitely read up on at this benefit, but on top of that, read on people's reviews on using this credit card benefit. Now, at the end of the day, what I really want people to consider is usually you're paying some type of fee for these credit cards, whether it be an annual type fee or in the form of interest rates or late payment fees or whatever it is. You're basically already paying these credit card companies for these benefits. So if you're not using these benefits, it's definitely something you want to start taking advantage of. And I'm not necessarily saying abuse the situation. I'm just saying it's something you already bought into. You've paid in one way or another. So these are benefits that you're entitled to, and I really want to make sure people understand it. So if you ever have any questions on how to use it or my experience with these different benefits, just comment down below and I can give more details or on your specific situation to kind of increase that likelihood that these claims would actually get paid through. And if you appreciate this video at all, please give it a big thumbs up. And like I said before, please consider subscribing. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers. I would greatly appreciate it. And as always, if you like personal finance, home type buying videos, car buying videos, any kind of career advice type videos, please consider subscribing, and I hope to see you in the next one.